Praful Bhai, I'll start. Yeah. Om Shanti to all of you. And before we begin, let me just express my immense gratitude towards the Divine Being for blessing us with the company of beautiful, divine, invaluable jewels of His rosary. So we just spend another minute of silence to invoke the Divine and thank Him. Praful Bhai, just 1 minute of silence music. Okay, so welcome back. And let me start with a good morning for those who are joining us from the US, North America, Canada. Good afternoon to ones who are from Europe and UK and Africa as well. And the ones from Asia, a very good evening to all of you. It includes even not only from India, but Russia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Australia. At the outset, let me just thank all of our speakers today who have made this event a reality and who have helped us in making this event see the light of the day by their esteemed presence. And it's indeed an honor and privilege to introduce each one of them on this World Values Day. And it's beautiful, like when I read their CVs, I thought I'm going to make a blast by telling their values as well. So hang on for that. And it's the 15th October, it's the World Values Day. A lot of programs happening all over the world. Currently, as we speak, a few hours ago, there were programs in UK, London, and also after we finish, there'll be programs there. Incidentally, it's also the World Students' Day, if all of you know. And it's a pleasant coincidence. It's the birth anniversary of our very own late president, APJ Abdul Kalam. I'm sure all of you agree that he was a scientist, but he was a person who led his life on values. So it's really an honor to have his birthday on the same day. You know, the World Values Day basically is an annual campaign to increase the awareness and practice of values around the world. And the theme this year is Values in Action. I really feel very elated to tell you that we all of us are a part of Brahma Kumaris, which is a spiritual organization and which was established way back in 1936. And everything, the Supreme Being really teaches us everything here on the basis of values. So it's essentially an organization which thrives on value-based teachings. And we disseminate so much of our knowledge, which has been given us to the Divine Being through various wings of the organization. Just to tell you a few wings, we are doing this to the medical wing, of which Dr. Mehta is the president. And we have many other wings like admin wing, business wing, so on and so forth. So without much ado, let me just request Sister Anu now to give a virtual tilak and a virtual bouquet to all our esteemed speakers.
A very warm welcome to everyone. And on behalf of everyone joining from all over the world, I want to welcome our very invaluable and respected guest speakers. And for that, I am bringing a little touch of that traditional value from India. So I'm going to welcome them with the diya, the light, the lamp, and the tilak with fragrant sandalwood. So to all of our eminent guest speakers, and with this beautiful bouquet of flowers, welcome. Thank you very much for giving this time to be with us. And we are looking forward to listen to your insight on values for life. Welcome.
Thank you, sister, so much. It really lighted the day and it gave us a feel that we are in Madhuban and Bab Dada is always there with us. Thank you once again. So let me start with our first speaker. What we'll be doing, the agenda is I'll be just giving a couple of minutes introduction about the speaker and then they'll be carrying on with their deliberations. So let me start with the first speaker, BK Asha. She is a person, I must say, a personification of dedication, determination, a lot of discipline as well, but at the same time, a lot of cheerfulness and optimism. I've really found she strikes a nice balance of love and law. Having been to the Om Shanti Retreat Center, which she's the director of, I really saw the balance. And she's quite strict, but she's also very loving as a mother. So she's the perfect balance. Let me just tell you about her in short. She has entered into the knowledge of Brahma Kumaris when she was just around 9 years, and she dedicated her life in 1972. She took voluntary resignation from her services as a lecturer of the Mount Carmel Degree College in Bangalore, and she is a highly proficient orator and one of the most sought after speakers in India. Let me tell you a few other things. She's the member of the management committee of Brahma Kumaris. She's the director of Om Shanti Retreat Center and the chairperson of the administrators wing. And she also is representing the Brahma Kumaris centers as a regional coordinator of Brahma Kumaris. Academically, she is a topper, or she was a topper and gold medalist in MA Sociology from the Bangalore University, where she served as a lecturer. And she also is instrumental in conducting a lot of training programs for the sisters who want to surrender their life, and a lot of lectures and talks she's being regularly telecasting on television channels in India like Sanskar and Peace of Mind. And she also is instrumental in doing a lot of VIP services where she meets along with Brijmohan Bhai Sahab, a lot of politicians of India, and is instrumental in making them cooperative for the Yagya. So we would like to listen to Asha's sister. Over to her.
Om Shanti. Today we are celebrating World Values Day, and it happens to be the birthday of our late President Dr. Abdul Kalam, who was a scientist but a person who stood by values. When he visited Mount Abu, he asked a question to the youth who were there. Why is it that India has never attacked any country, though others have attacked it? And ultimately, he said, it is because of its values and spirituality. He was a person who always encouraged value-based life. Values mirror our personality. Human being is the superior most of all species, and it is said God made man in his own image, which means God had not only physically created, but he had put values in the human beings. And values from that angle are innate in the souls, the spirits. Just as sweetness is innate in honey, similarly, values are innate in the soul. But if it is so, then why is it that we have to remind ourselves? Why is it we have to celebrate this World Values Day? Why do we need to draw the attention of the people towards values time and again? We have started speaking about value-based life, value-based administration, value-based medical profession, and so on. Where are they lost? Sometimes when we travel on the road, you would have experienced school bus, small little children. They don't know you. You are in your car, and these children are waving to you, saying hello to you, smiling at you, and you enjoy and you also respond. But just imagine if some older person does this, then what is our reaction? We don't like it and start questioning, why is this person smiling at me unnecessarily? So, dear brothers and sisters, we need to ask ourselves, where have we lost our valuable thing? Where the treasure box of values is lost. I'll come to this point a little later. I would like to draw your attention towards another thing. All the countries, they want the human population to be reduced. No one wants the population of the animals to come down. In every country, every government, they have a department so that they are able to control the human population. Why? In Hindi it is said, आज इंसान सस्ता हो गया है, इंसानियत महंगी है. Human beings have become very cheap, but the cheapest thing and humanity, humaneness has become very scarce and rare. The reason that I see is, of late we have started identifying ourselves with the material world, and this is due to the false identity that we have developed. This body, the physical thing, is the medium, and this medium is being used by the soul, which is the master. But when we start considering ourselves to be I, the body to be I, then all these problems start arising. The body conscious approach is developed, which gives a false world view, and with the result, our mind and intellect gets into grabbing more and more material things. Though it is said very clearly in our culture, trees never eat their fruits, rivers never drink their water. They are meant to be used by the humans, someone else. They don't use up themselves. Similarly, dear brothers and sisters, due to this approach, what we call body conscious, we started considering material things to be everything. And this led us away from the main goal of life, that is happiness. We started considering money to be the whole thing. Person who has lot of money is valuable, and a poor person has no standing. But if it was true, then those who are rich must have been very, very happy people, and those poor must have been very, very sorrowful people. But that's not the case. Things are different. Once a German photographer was taking a picture of a poor child who had scant clothes on him, but there was a smile on his face. The other person who was passing by did not like it and said, "Why, brother, you are taking this photograph? Want to show that India is so poor?" I said, "No, I want to show, although it's a poor child, but there is a smile on his face." Similarly, when we start considering ourselves to be the true, beautiful master, powerful master of this body, then the whole thing starts changing. Grabbing of money, running after status, possession, and so on. All this is due to the false approach towards the self. We need to change it into the one where instead of we being the slaves of materialism, we become the masters of it. And to be the masters, one thing that we confront, that is, all around we find people who are breaking the rules of life. One gets encouraged and a thought comes, if this person can be leading happy life, although temporary, why should I follow all the rules, regulations, etc.? Dear brothers and sisters, when I set my goal that I want happiness, I know pretty well with money I can buy all the means of happiness, but happiness cannot be bought. Happiness is a spiritual value. It is a misnomer to consider values to be material values or physical values. All values are spiritual in nature. Take truth, love, empathy, sympathy, tolerance, happiness. Are they material? No. They belong to the innate self, that is the soul, and we need to cultivate them in the laboratory of our life. Tried and tested values which are eternal, immortal, evergreen: truth and love. Truth means, for truth we say God is truth, God is love. Truth is the education and love is the expression of that truth. Dear brothers and sisters, when mind and intellect gets into this conflict whether I should follow the value-based life, we must remember it is not the money, it is not the wealth, the power, the status or position that is going to last forever. It is said Who laughs last laughs the best. I have to see I'm not an eternal being in this body. I have to leave this body also. Humans have to leave this body, which is subject to disease, decay, and death. And when we identify ourselves with this body, there is natural fear of mortality, there is fear of death, fear of losing things. How can I be above this? I can be above this by recognizing that I am the being, a spiritual being which is eternal and immortal. In order to empower myself so that I live this life, I need to mentally connect myself with the Supreme, who is the source point of all the values, with the fountainhead of all the values. And by mentally connecting with the Supreme Source, who I like to call God, we get by and by strength to face the difficult and the awkward situations in this world. And for this purpose, I would say, let us not wait for others to start. Let me start with the self. Whatever I wish to do for my own happiness, let me start giving happiness to others. For my own peace, let me be peaceful with others. If I want to be respected, let me start respecting others. And the first step taken forward, it will mirror a leading example, and there will be many, many others who will also start doing this, and we make this world a better place to live in. With these words, I congratulate Brother Manoj Matnani for organizing this beautiful event and giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with you. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Thanks a lot, Asha Didiji, for your enlightening talk. And it reminds me, you said that India never attacked anyone. And in Brahma Kumaris, we are taught the divine being comes to India. So India is the mother for all the countries. So how can a mother attack anyone, right? So it's a mother is full of values, full of sacrifice for the child. And also reminds me of Swami Vivekanand, who was another value-based person when he went to the parliament, religions parliament way back in somewhere 1800s. You remember that the Gita was sort of kept at the base and the other scriptures were kept on top. And people were making fun of Gita. But what he said, that Gita is the base of all the scriptures, of all the things which have come, and with all the teachings of all the other dharam pitas, what we call, or the religious men founders, it comes from the Gita. So there is the need for values in that. So thank you, sister. We now move on to another very eloquent speaker. She's another international speaker, Sister Denise. She's an epitome of wisdom, grace, and simplicity. You know, she's from the West, but she's adapted to the Indian lifestyle so very well and gelled so very well into the Indian culture. Many of you would not know that she can speak very good Hindi. If I can ask her, but I'm just kidding. But she's really very good in Hindi as well. She, as far as her work life goes, before coming to Brahma Kumaris, she was associated with the BBC in the UK and the CNBC, the Canadian Broadcasting in Canada. And let me just give you an outline of her biodata in short. She joined the Brahma Kumaris in London 1974 at the age of 23. And between 1975 and 2000, she served as the coordinator of centers in Germany, Canada, and USA, where she still does a lot of moving around and does a lot of programs in all these three continents. She featured on around 100 television programs on the Raj Yoga TV. She's a director of that TV, and a further 100 TV programs on addiction recovery as well. She taught meditation to addicts recovering from narcotics at the Los Angeles prison between 84 and 96. Then, for around 7 years, from 2001 to 7, she was at the international headquarters, Mount Abu, to write down 10 textbooks of the postgraduate diploma programs in education in values and spirituality. So that's her contribution. She spent 7 years writing. I also have done a few PG diplomas, and it's amazing the work she's done on that single handedly. And currently, this course is offered at 8 different Indian universities. She was also the national coordinator for Brahma Kumaris in Canada from 2007 to 10. And right now, lastly, since to September 2010, she's been dividing her time, sometimes in Mount Abu, sometimes in London. And basic areas of her service are Germany, USA, and Canada. And she has extensive talks on lectures, seminars, retreats, and conferences throughout the world. And I would request Sister Denise to tell us today about her thoughts on education and values. So over to Sister Denise. Thank you.
Thank you, Manoj Bhai, and thank you for organizing this gathering. Well, as you mentioned, I did get the opportunity not only to write the books, but also to formulate the pedagogy for teaching about values. And in that process, I discovered many things which maybe not so well known to people. And one of them, which I think is really not understood, and that is there is no such thing as universal values. And mostly people believe that values are universal, but I discovered that in fact, values are according to your culture, your age, your religious background, your education level, your political orientation, so many things, your culture. All of these things will create a variation in values. I'll give you an example, and that is from the medical field. We have several people from the world of medicine, and Dr. Mehta and Dr. Patel are with us. And so we see that there is quite a difference between the values in allopathic medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, homeopathic medicine. And each modality of medicine has very strong points, and the people who avail themselves of medical treatment will probably select those which correspond to their own value system. And also, depending on the kind of complaint you have, you may select one over another. I think if you need a heart transplant or bypass surgery, you will not use homeopathy for that, although it might be able to handle the problem, but the allopathic medicine will deal with it very effectively and well. And then there are some other problems which may be more subtle, for which allopathic medicine doesn't really have something that is satisfactory. And then a person may look to traditional Chinese medicine or homeopathy or Ayurveda. Just an example. You also hear the word values applied with certain other words. For example, in the Western world, you hear a lot of people talking about Christian values. And then you hear about Islamic values and Hindu values, so that you can see that people are very aware that their cultural and religious background has a great impact on how they think about values. And so The other thing that I would draw everyone's attention to, together with values, is virtues. And what I discovered is that there can be a conflict of values, but there cannot be a conflict of virtues. For example, have you seen a conflict between the virtues of love and the virtues of peace? So some people will say, well, love is a value and peace is a value. And that means that we need to really define what we mean by values. And I think the best way to define values is money, because money is about values. You will say, okay, what is the value of this cabbage that I see in the market? And your cabbage may be €2 for one cabbage, $2. Not sure how many rupees a cabbage is, but if there is scarcity, then the value of the cabbage becomes higher. The price of that cabbage becomes higher. If there are no cabbages, they may be €10 because there is scarcity value. And so you can see that the amount of money that you pay for an item is determined by its intrinsic value, if it is available or not, if it is fashionable or not. For example, do you want to buy a tape recorder? Even you can get a very fancy tape recorder for next to nothing, because nobody uses tape recorders anymore. Now, technology has progressed so fast that your technical items become obsolete very, very quickly, and they lose their value. Diamonds are very different. A diamond will keep its value. A diamond will probably raise its value, because the value of money keeps getting lower and lower. And every so often, whole currencies are changed because the value of things and money becomes such that you might have to pay 1,000 for something. So then the currency will be changed so that it goes back to 10 from 1,000, which hides the fact that you have to pay more for the same thing than you did 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So this is what I mean by values. Value is the value that you give to something. Now let's look at human behavior. In some cultures, a lot of value is given for freedom and independence, whereas in other cultures, freedom and independence is thought of as a bit rebellious and a bit inappropriate. And so in those cultures, freedom and independence is lower than in other cultures, it's higher. About clothing, modesty is considered a very high value in some cultures. In other cultures, it's considered old-fashioned, and not much importance is given to it. So just I wanted to illustrate that when you hear this expression, oh, there are no values anymore, we have to bring in values, what we need to understand by that is that whatever your values are not shared by the people that you were talking about, who you were saying they have no values. They have values, but they don't have your values. They have different values. And so our problem is not really to make values be there where values were missing, but we need to be quite aware that there is a big variation in values, and we need to look at how is the best way to interact with one another so that there is more acceptance of one another's values, tolerance, Like, for example, you hear the word religious tolerance, which is there in some places at some times and not in other places and other times. What that means is that one kind of value is one of the meanings of secularism. For example, India decided at the time of partition to become a secular republic, whereas Pakistan decided to be an Islamic theocracy. And these are very different value systems. And then in India, secularism is sometimes interpreted as meaning that we do not think about or consider people's religions, but we focus on more human rights and something like this. And that is called secularism. Whereas other interpretations of secularism is that we accept and we honor all the religions. So there are these two interpretations which coexist and sometimes come into conflict with each other because they also represent two slightly different value systems. Then when we talk about spiritual values, religious values, humanitarian values, secular values, all of these are good, all of them, but they're different from each other. And so this is why I am raising this subject, because a lot of people don't really think about it like this. And in my experience, I found that most people, they don't make a distinction between values, virtues, qualities, and powers. And we can make a distinction. Why would we make a distinction? Is so that we are not having misunderstandings. And misunderstandings occur when you have a different definition of a word. So my definition of values I've described, another person will describe values differently. And then sometimes when we are looking at definitions of words, we'll say, okay, the arbitrator is the dictionary. So you go to the dictionary and it may tell you something very different from what you thought. But the other problem with language is that the words change over time. And my language is English, but English in India is very different from English in United States, which is very different from English in Australia, which is very different from English in England, which is very different from English in Scotland. And so because it's an international language, we get an enormous amount of misunderstanding because different people in different parts of the world, in different age groups, with different levels of education, use the same language so differently that it's practically like a different language. And you go from one English-speaking part of the world to another English-speaking part of the world, and you have a big communication problem because people use the language differently. And there's misunderstanding. And this is why, having studied all these things, I ended up favoring virtues and powers. In the spiritual study that we work with in the Brahma Kumaris, we do talk about virtues and powers. And we are coming up to the time of Navaratri, where the goddesses are honored, and the festivals of the celebration of the goddesses, finally with Dashera, the burning of Ravan. All of this is symbolic of the importance of spiritual power in the achievement of purity, the achievement of a society where there are shared values, where everyone in the society is operating on the same basis, having the same kind of values. And I think this is why we give importance to the expression spiritual values, with the idea that spiritual values may be somehow on a higher level than religious values, because there are lots of different religions, and spirituality, we would say spirituality is there in every religion, and it is the essence, the fundament, and the quintessence of the soul, and everyone is a soul, though they have different religions in terms of the culture and their physical birth religion. But spirituality is somehow an overarching word, and so we like to use spiritual values in our efforts to talk about, describe, and define ways of being, ways of treating each other, ways of interacting with each other, which are based on everyone being a soul, which is not having a religion, not having a physical body color, not having a gender. Soul is genderless. Values are usually very much determined by gender and color and race and culture and all of this. And so ultimately, I found it quite important to stress that it's not really helpful to talk about universal values, but it's important to talk about values and to distinguish different value systems with a view to achieving harmony between different value systems, because it doesn't seem right to impose your values on another person who has other values, because they have their reasons why they adopt their value system. And there are different traditions in the world to which people express their loyalty, and they believe that, yes, this is the best value system, this is my value system, but then someone else may have a different one, and they may have different reasons why they like that value system. And we need to achieve cooperation and collaboration among the different cultures and values, because the world we live in is very multifaceted, and we have a lot of conflict in this world, and we experience a lot of suffering because of conflict, sometimes even because of clashes of values. So I will just throw in that, which may be a little different from what many people are thinking, but just to give another angle on the subject. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Sister Denise, for eloquently telling us the differences between these four things: the virtues, values, qualities, and powers. And if I can just quote an example, like you gave a nice example of a cauliflower. If all of us just look at the iPhone or the iPad, we very routinely in casual English say, by virtue of being from the apple, the value is high. So as I understand that there can be no conflict of virtues, but there can be conflict of values. So virtue is something intrinsic and value is something extrinsic attached to the value to that particular thing. And then you could probably cover later sometime about the quality. So we say the quality of Apple products is very high because by virtue of being an Apple product, which is the intrinsic quality of that, it helps us to gauge the value of that. So thank you so much, sister. We move on to our third speaker, Dr. Sarah Egger. I know Sarah from the genesis of Vihasa, and she is a symbol of peace, kindness, and compassion. Having been in touch with her through emails, I have come to know a lot about her, and that the way she does a lot of work on compassion. And let me just tell you very briefly about her. She currently is the chairperson of the Janki Foundation, and it's a UK-based charity that promotes spirituality in healthcare. And she is the main coordinating editor of the Vihasa. I'm sure all of our facilitators would be really gratified today to see this person. We have seen her in the pictures when we introduce in the introductory slides of Vihasa, which is Values in Healthcare, a Spiritual Approach. But it's indeed a pleasure to have her here. That's a training program which is concerned with the application of holistic principles for healthcare professionals in their education and training. She has worked in the NHS, National Health Services UK, for 30 years as a consultant psychiatrist and also as a senior clinical lecturer in the Department of Psychological Medicine at Imperial College London. And she has also been into private practice for 15 years. She's also on the executive committee of the World Psychiatric Association. And also she heads the chair, she was the past chair of the Spirituality Special Interest Group of the Royal College of Psychiatrists. And if you come to her alaukic journey, her spiritual journey, she has been a practitioner of Raj Yoga meditation over the last 40 years. And she's a certified mindful self-compassion teacher. And she's an advocate of a value-based approach to healthcare, as I told you already. And that approach, she will be telling us today, one that embraces peace, love, positivity, and compassion for the benefit of self and others. And what she'll be talking on today is, she told me the topic is a beautiful topic, compassion at the heart of all we do. So the stage is all yours. Over to Dr. Sarah Egger. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you today. It's really exciting to feel that we're part of a worldwide movement that embraces the idea of values being at the core of what we do. And as Denise pointed out, really, what are those particular values? That they can vary. And so really it's what kind of value you have that's really important. And Manoj asked me to share a little bit about values in healthcare. And I think Dr. Mehta will be also talking about this project in terms of how it's really taken off in India. And we're really excited about how much you appreciate it. But just to show you, this is the actual manual. It's a big tome. And we started thinking about it 20 years ago. You believe that? Gosh, it's extraordinary. And 20 years ago, about 10 of us from various different healthcare professions were really thinking about the state of the healthcare profession, how people were quite burnt out. There was a lot of stress. I would say it's probably even more now, especially in the current crisis that we're facing right now. And we really were wondering, how can we help our fellow healthcare professionals? And this idea came, there was another project called Values in Education, and we were very inspired by that. And we also thought we had different influences actually, and we were very struck by something called appreciative inquiry. So really looking at what works and rather than what doesn't. We were very inspired by what's called experiential learning. So rather than just having lectures and lots of facts and things thrown at you, to do some kind of exercise that really enabled you to experience something. And then from that experience, you would learn something deeply about yourself. So we worked for 4 years actually on this. We wanted, and those principles of learning through experience, of physician heal thyself was another one. This idea that really, who cares for the caregivers? We know that people in the healthcare professions suffer higher rates of all kinds of stress-related illnesses and addictions, that it's not an easy profession. And yet people who come into it are very dedicated, have a very high sense of vocation. But really these ideas of what do you need to help keep yourself on an even keel? What do you need to do to keep yourself in balance, resilient, strong? That was very important to us. And also that it needed to be relevant to work. So we thought very deeply, like what this idea of what we used, in a sense, this idea of values, or what we would even have called core values, was something that I think as Asha Didi said, something innate in all of us. And of course, they do relate to our virtues and our powers and strengths. They're all interconnected. But I think values is a word that we felt that the profession understood. There was a paper written in the British Medical Journal about how the core values of the medical profession were really needed reviving and how important they were. And so we kind of understood values to be this sense of what's really important to you in your life. What is it that sets your intention, that motivates you? What's your guiding principle in what you're doing and how you're behaving? And rather than telling you what your values would be, we would do exercises that would help people really explore that deeply for themselves. And I'm sure you're very aware that most doctors and people in the healthcare field, their values are generally very good. They want to help people, they want to care, they want to relieve suffering. That thing that really inspired us to become doctors or nurses or involved in caring in the first place is a very deep value. And it has to be, because really that's what's keeping you going through some very tough times, long hours, lots of study, upsetting scenes that you're exposed to. So your values really need to be strong, because that's what's anchoring you, that's what's guiding you, that's what's really helping you get through some of these things. So there's a nice quote by someone called Thomas Merton. It says, "If you want to identify me, ask me not where I live, what I like to eat, or how I comb my hair, but ask me, what am I living for? In detail, ask me what I think is keeping me from living fully for the things that I want to live for." So that sense of what's really important to me, what's guiding me in my life. And so we thought about this, and we decided that for healthcare people, there were some aspects of values that were really very relevant and important. So we explore the actual thing of values. Being peaceful is one of the modules. So being able to stay calm, being able to stay centered, really being able to calm things down, very important attribute for us as healthcare workers. Remaining positive, really being able to see the silver lining, take appreciation of what's going on, being able to have a really step back and see the bigger picture and see the benefit in a situation. Compassion, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about compassion shortly. Cooperation, we all work in teams, we all depend on so many people to get our jobs done. And yet you can see that at work, it's often those relationships and the difficulties in them which causes the most stress. And so just to be able to cooperate and work together, how valuable is that? Valuing the self, there's a lot of research that shows that doctors and healthcare professionals have quite a strong inner critic. They've studied very hard to get where they've got to, but they have often a harsh internal critic. And so they cannot be very kind to themselves. And this is something that I'm finding a lot more of as I'm doing a lot of compassion teaching in hospitals. So really knowing how to look after yourself and bring that care and kindness and compassion that you give so freely to others to also give that to yourself. And then looking at spirituality in healthcare, as I think previous people have alluded to, you know, what these core values that we call them, they really are spiritual values. And so that's why we called it Values in Healthcare, a spiritual approach, because we're seeing that these are the innate qualities of the being, of the spiritual being, that we really, when we're manifesting them, this is, we're manifesting our truth. So I'd just like to share with you a few slides really about this thing of compassion, because of all those values and the values that we worked in Bahasa, at the moment I can really see that compassion is the one that is extremely relevant for the world today and also for our own lives, being able to be compassionate towards ourselves. So I'm just going to share my screen. and share a few slides for you. So often when I'm teaching this and I ask people, what does compassion mean to you? And this idea that compassion is to suffer with. And we're aware of that it's com with, and passion from the Greek is to suffer. So this feeling of compassion always arises in the context of suffering. And that's exactly our field of work, isn't it? We're always dealing with people who are suffering in some way, because that's why they come to see us. And so it's really about how we respond to that suffering. And there are some nice, and we can see in all religions, it's a very important value, virtue, power, that we're able to see the suffering of others and respond. And a nice quote from the Dalai Lama, he says, compassion is the wish that all sentient beings may be free from suffering. And a psychologist from UK who's done a lot of work in this area, it's the deep awareness of the suffering of oneself and other living beings, coupled with the wish and effort to alleviate it. And this is the big thing that distinguishes compassion from just empathy. Empathy, I can feel what you're going through, and I could just leave it at that. But with compassion, there's this real urge, I can see what's going on for you, but I really want to help you out of that pain and suffering. So it really is at the heart of what we do as healthcare professionals. And a very nice quote from Dadi Janki, who was one of the senior teachers of Brahma Kumaris, and she left her body earlier this year at 104, and also was our president of the Janki Foundation. So we took a lot of inspiration from her and how she lived values in her life. And I love this quote, it's not wanting sorrow to remain in another, but having the strength in the self to remove that sorrow. And that for me is a really key thing, because you can want to help people, you can want to help them come out of their suffering. But if you're down there with them or getting all upset, or you're very caught up with all your own ups and downs, you're not going to be so helpful to others. So this idea of inner strength is very core when it comes to being compassionate and really being able to be that anchor for people. And this is a very nice saying from the Myanmar Republic: when the sunshine of loving kindness meets the tears of suffering, the rainbow of compassion arises. So we have that sense that really this idea of loving kindness. And for me, this is really important, because I think we know that our innate nature, our original qualities, our true self is one of love. And so it's when that love comes from us and we meet suffering on the outside that then this feeling of compassion arises. And compassion is actually quite a complex value, if you like. It's a complex thing, because it includes so many other things. So people have done research and thought about this, and this is a very nice slide, because it talks about compassion includes attending. So you've got to notice someone suffering before you can do something about it. So just that basic step of being aware, of tuning in, of observing, of noticing. And that also goes for yourself. Do you notice when you're stressed, when you're in pain, when you need to take care of yourself? The first step is you need to notice, attending. The next one is understanding. So what's causing the other person's distress? And of course, we are very good at that, because we're appraising all the time. We're diagnosing, we're putting together the whole story. We're trying to understand what might be the cause of this, and what can I do about it? So that's a very big part of our work. Empathizing. So this feeling of empathy, and when they do brain scans on looking at empathy and compassion, different parts of the brain light up, but it's that sense of mirror neurons that actually I can feel a little bit of what you're feeling. And you get that sense, don't you? Someone's very sad. You feel it in your gut. You have a sense that this person is very sad. And that's empathy. And it's a very useful thing to have. We don't want to completely identify with their suffering, but just to touch it a little is important, because that also shows that other person that you know what they're going through. And that's really key. And then this sense of helping. So you're not just noticing and empathizing, but you're actually going to do something. And that's very, very important aspect of compassion. And it's an active thing. It's an energy that we carry with us. And it requires courage and wisdom often to do this. And if we unpack it even further, we can see that the qualities of compassion are numerous. And it's a lovely slide, isn't it? Because it shows you just in that act of compassion, all the different values, virtues, powers that you're actually using. You're curious about what someone's going through. You're offering them kindness. You're being warm. You're showing respect. You're using wisdom. You're allowing things to happen. You have humility, mutuality, confidentiality, confidence. You're receptive, flexible, authentic, and appreciating. You're attentive, generous, empathic, and have equanimity. So isn't it a wonderful little package, compassion? It's got so many goodies inside, so many lovely qualities that, especially when you're on the receiving end, if you're a patient and you have someone caring for you who can demonstrate just even one of these things, makes a huge difference to the quality of your experience. I remember once I was in hospital with malaria, and a little gift I got from India once, and I was back in the UK, and people were giving me drips and taking my blood pressure and all this and that, all kinds of things. And then someone came up to me and just stood there, and she looked at me and she said, "How are you doing?" It was the first time anyone actually asked me how I was. They were all so busy doing things to me. And I really noticed it. It really stood out for me that this was someone inquiring about me, the person who was going through all this. How was I actually doing? And I felt her compassion, and it was very touching, and I appreciated it. And if you look into the thesaurus, all these other words for compassion, again, it gives you a feeling of the energy of compassion. Brotherly love, tenderness, benevolence, generosity. It's not just a bland feeling. It's a real depth to it and an energy that gets things done because you really want to help others who are suffering. So as a medical profession, when we tune into that value, that's what's going to carry us through some of our darkest times, our most difficult times, the days when we haven't had sleep or haven't eaten anything or just rushing from one thing to another. It's our compassion that's carrying us through. But really, it's very important to connect it to how we look after ourselves. And the Dalai Lama, again, a lovely quote: for someone to develop genuine compassion towards others, they must have a basis upon which to cultivate that compassion. And that basis is the ability to look after your own feelings and to care for your own welfare. And this is what I'm doing a lot of work now, is this training in self-compassion for doctors, because they're really not very good at it. And how do you cope with a lot of grief, with a lot of pain, with a lot of suffering? You really have to be kind to yourself and learn how to do that, and really get love and peace and other beautiful qualities that you can experience in meditation and with connection with the divine and through understanding yourself as a soul. These are the things that nourish your soul, and they're so vital to our well-being. And the person who has helped develop a lot of this work is a psychologist called Kristen Neff. She's basically saying self-compassion is responding to yourself in the same way that you would with a good friend. So it's really being a good friend to yourself and really practicing that kindness for yourself. And I haven't got time today to go into a lot of depth, but it's a big topic, and there's a lot we can learn about how to be kind to ourselves at the same time as we're being kind to others. And as I said before, another reason that it's so meaningful for me is I feel that love is our true nature. It's our original quality. It's a function of the soul. It's that we are love. And when that love manifests into the world, it reveals itself as compassion when it meets suffering. And so for me, compassion is an aspect of our true nature, and we express it and we show it because it's who we are and it's the right thing to do. So it's a very powerful, deep spiritual truth about ourselves. And just to end, this quote from Socrates: "My friend, care for your psyche, your soul. Know yourself, for once we know ourselves, we may learn how to care for ourselves." And I think there's a lot of depth in that quote. I'd just like to finish by sharing with you some other things that the Janki Foundation has done since producing Values in Healthcare. So Stillness in the Storm is a book that myself and a colleague wrote during the COVID lockdown here in the UK. It's about to be published, and it will come up on our website, the Janki Foundation website, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And that's beautiful chapters on staying safe, accepting yourself, loving yourself, how to manage fear and anxiety, uncertainty with exercises and audio tracks. And I think you'll find it really helpful. And then finally, we've worked on an app which is free, and this is called Happy Dote, and it was specifically designed for healthcare professionals. I'd really encourage you to download it onto your phone, because it will give you just little 3-minute meditations when you're struggling with feeling stressed or feeling unsupported or bullied, any kind of negative mind state you find yourself in. There's an antidote there for you, which you can listen to really, really quickly. They're quite short, so that you can do them on the job. So please do download free app Happy Dote, because it was made especially for you. And that's the code, but I think you just put it in your app store and you'll find it. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed hearing those thoughts about values in healthcare and other things that it's become since then. Thank you.
Absolutely, it was a pleasure to listen to you. And if I could just summarize, you beautifully mentioned the differences between empathy and compassion. You know, when we conduct these sessions on compassion, there's a beautiful tug of war between sympathy and empathy. So we tell them, just come out of all this and be in the compassionate mode, compassion towards self, which is on a more deeper level, as you rightly said, on a spiritual level. And I like the quote which you said, that ask me what I am. That's important, because we really, as healthcare practitioners, we don't have compassion towards self. And even you felt it very nice when someone asked you in the hospital when you were admitted, "Oh, how are you, Sarah?" So it's really a beautiful way to allude to that. Thank you so much for your sharings on compassion. And I'm sure we really want to listen to a lot of compassion from you, because that's your field of specialty. And we'll organize a talk for you separately. I'm sorry I couldn't give you more time on that, so apologies for that. But later in future, definitely. Thank you so much. We move on to our next speaker, Sister Shreya. People from India know her very well. She's a dynamic and vibrant speaker. And if you look at her angelic face, it lights up the atmosphere with spiritual vibrations. And she's one of the sought after speakers in India. If I can just rush through her biodata as well. She has been associated with Brahma Kumaris for the past 11 years and is one of the faculty member as well. She has been actively involved in conducting a lot of spiritual seminars and workshops across India. And let me thank her immensely for her contribution towards whatever 3 or 4 conferences we have done on rejuvenating medical minds. She has always been a regular speaker on that. She's a common feature, she commonly on the television Peace of Mind channel, and she focuses on value education, life skills, and the practice of meditation. And academically, she is a graduate, honors graduate in English literature, and a postgraduate in ethics and spirituality. So she will be today enlightening us on the compass for life, how values will be the compass for our life. So over to Sister Shreya for her deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Om Shanti. Thank you for inviting for this event. Like Manoj Bhai said, that values are the compass of our life. And yes, they are the basis of our life. But now, after listening to Sister Denise, I think the right word to use would be virtues. And virtues are the foundation of our lives because on the basis of the virtues are dependent our thoughts, our words, our decisions, and our actions. And what we do today is what we're going to get in future. So what we're doing in the present is also creating our future. But when we see broadly, we all know about the virtues. We all know that we have to be loving. We know we have to be caring, peaceful, forgiving, compassion. It's not new to us. We've learned in school, we've learned from our parents, we've learned from the society everywhere. But what happens sometimes in the walk of the life when we come across situations, we're influenced by what the majority is doing. For example, we know we have to be loving. Love is the way. Even if you want to change somebody, even if you want to empower somebody, you need to use love. But then again, when it comes to disciplining our children or when it comes to getting work done, we think maybe anger is the way because we see majority doing it. And if nothing, when we see injustice, a lot of injustice in the world, then we think it's okay to get angry. It's natural to get angry. And we would also term it as righteous anger. And we get influenced by what people are doing. And that's when we leave our virtue, we leave our value. And what happens? We don't even realize that whether it's working for me or not. So, for example, when I use anger, things may happen, I may get work done, but I don't realize that in the process, I'm losing my state of mind, I'm losing my creativity, it's impacting my health, it's impacting my relationships. If you keep getting angry, you will see that you will lose the love from the hearts of other people. They will distance themselves from you. And I don't realize this, and maybe, just on the external level, I see work is getting done, and then I think, no, I have to be loving, but I'm using more of anger. I want peace, but I'm using more of anger. So what I think is that one has to really become introvert and ask themselves what works for me. My virtues are my foundation, and my value system will increase my soul power, will increase my willpower. My values will increase my willpower, and they will also empower the people who are around me. And I will get blessings from other people. When I use the opposite of virtue, when I use anger, then what I get from other people is also a lot of negative energy because I'm investing that and that's what people are radiating back to me. But I don't feel very good. Work is getting done, work is happening, but I don't feel very good. And sometimes you also compromise with the values if you see in the world is because when we're a little unethical, sometimes again the influence of the majority, we achieve external success quickly. And then we will say it's okay to cheat a little bit, or it's okay to lie a little bit, or we'll say honesty doesn't work. It's something that doesn't work today. So we justify ourselves even when our conscience is speaking. We kind of keep talking to ourselves, justify ourselves, and if you see, we will get external success. And on the basis of getting external success, we will also receive temporary happiness. So somewhere my belief system even gets stronger that to get external success, I have to be a little flexible with my values and, it's okay to cheat a little bit or something. But then one thing that again I don't realize is that in the process, even though I am acquiring a lot at the external level, I'm getting respect, I'm getting success, I'm getting money, fame, name, a lot of things. But one thing which I'm losing is contentment. A lot of people will say that I've acquired a lot on the outside, but internally they may be feeling a little lonely, discontent, at times a little suffocated, at times very hollow and empty. And that's again because I compromise with my values. So this is something I feel that we should never, never compromise with our inner values for the external success. And when we do right, 100% right will happen to us because the third law is always working. Every action has equal and opposite reactions. It may take a little time, but if I am, leading my life ethically, the right will happen to me. And that's the faith I need. Because sometimes, we also compromise with our values because we want to just fit in the society. We want to be approved, we want to be appreciated, we don't want to be left out. So even if I know that I have to be peaceful and calm, even if I know that somebody is being rude and somebody is insulting me, I need to be peaceful, I need to be calm. But because sometimes people around me will think that if I'm very peaceful and calm, I am weak. That's the general thing. Sometimes people say that if you don't respond back, if you, that's it for that thing, then they will think that you're very doormat-like, you're very weak, and people can just walk all over you. People can take you for granted. And just to fit in the society, I choose that way. And I don't realize that every time when I have to strike somebody, if somebody is being rude to me, and if I choose to be rude to them or insult them back, if I have to strike somebody, who is the first person who will be stricken? If I have to say something negative to you, I have to think negatively, and then I have to speak those words. So the first person who gets affected is me. The first person who loses their soul power, the first person who will feel depleted is me. They still have a choice. And that's why Buddha very rightly said that you will not be punished for your anger. Anger is the punishment. Hatred is the punishment. Being revengeful is the punishment because you lose your peace and you lose your soul power, you lose your willpower. So sometimes, because it's lack of self respect, I think, and we want to be approved, we want to be accepted, we choose the other way. And we forget that what we are going to radiate out into the world is something that's going to come back tomorrow. And then something when is not very nice happening with us, a situation comes or a challenge comes or it's a difficult relationship, when the consequence comes back, then I'm like, why did this happen to me? But it's not about saying why when the consequence is coming back. It's about saying, why am I behaving like this? And so I need to discern what is right for me. I need to choose and judge what is right for me. And then I need to stick to it, no matter what, no matter how people are behaving, no matter what the situation is. I stick to my value system because it works for me. Because I value my peace, I value my love, I value my space more than anything. So I stick to that. And people cannot take me for granted. Actually, when people can provoke me with their words, that's when they've taken me for granted. If people can say anything and I'm peaceful and I'm loving and I don't let go of my value system, people cannot take me for granted. So I need to discern what is right for me. And secondly, I need to draw courage. I need to draw power from the Supreme Being to follow that value. Sometimes when I don't have the power, I let go of the virtue. So I also need a lot of power because God tells us very beautiful analogy. He says to become like a flower. Because if you see flowers or anything in the nature, they will never leave their quality. The quality of the flower is to give fragrance. Now, whether the flower is in desert, or it's in a swamp, or it's in a beautiful garden, or it's in mud, whether the flower is in the hand of a doctor, or a patient, president, ordinary person, criminal, terrorist, anybody, the flower continues to radiate its fragrance. That's what I have to become. I have to become a flower, and I have to stick to my core nature. No matter what, I have to radiate that peace and love and compassion to the world, not just for them, but for me. Because what I'm going to radiate is something that I am the first person who's going to feel. So for myself, then for the world, and what I radiate is going to come back to me. So today, let us all decide, let us all work towards becoming a flower who radiates the fragrance of love, peace, and compassion in the world. Because all of us say that world, sometimes we'll be like, why is it so negative? Why is there so much hatred? The world is just the collective consciousness of all of us. God tells us that self transformation will lead to world transformation. Gandhiji also said, be the change that you want to see in the world, not when, when an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. So don't copy. but be the change that you want to see in the world. And so if I choose to be loving, if I choose to be peaceful, if I start to contribute that, I will inspire many others, and together, with each one's cooperation, we'll be able to create a very beautiful, peaceful, and loving world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Shreya, for the enlightening talk. I was just busy writing, therefore it took a bit of 2-3 seconds. Beautifully highlighted the practical ways of how to use values. I can say, yeah, I need to be loving, but if I'm using anger again as a weapon, and as you rightly said, anger, hatred, jealousy is a punishment in itself. So you gave us beautiful points for self introspection that we need to check what we are using. We use anger as a weapon, but we never realize that it's basically a weapon and it's hurting me. It has started from me. The bad energy is radiating from me first, and I am at the receiving end actually. And in the end, you said we should be like flowers, radiating fragrance come what may. And basically, we need to discern what is good for me, what is not good for me, and then draw courage or draw the power from the Supreme Being. Thank you indeed for this beautiful summary of how to use values in life. Over to the next speaker now, very much awaited Dr. Ashok Mehta. He's got a massive CV biodata. I'm sure all of you in India and even abroad know him very well. But let me just give you a few things which I feel about him personally. He is the one who's been instrumental in putting the seeds or sowing the seeds of Vihasa. It was in August 2014 when I attended the peace module, and I really liked he had told me once in Mount Abu, Manoj, why don't you come for the module? And my journey of Vihasa has started from that peace module. So I really admire him for that. I must say he's a persona of selflessness, peacefulness, lot of flexibility and lot of kindness. I have really seen now, even for the virtual Vihasa sessions when we sit, I mean, he's like a small child. Whatever we tell him, he just does that. So he's really having that beautiful quality of flexibility in him. And if I can just briefly tell about his biodata, a few summary points. Academically, he is a very famous head and neck oncosurgeon, and he's been instrumental in developing the departments at various places. He has really done a lot of workshops and technology transfer programs in the field of cancer, and particularly head and neck cancer. He's authored quite a few books. He has got a lot of awards, but I would like to mention the medical domain know this award very well, that if there are doctors in the audience, I'm sure there are quite a few. He is one of the winner of the BC Roy National Award in the category of development of specialties of head and neck surgery. He received it in 1996. And he's been the president of various associations and societies. And if I just scan his academic career from 1970 to 97, he was the chief of surgery and head and neck service at Tata Memorial Hospital, the famous cancer hospital in Mumbai. All of you know very well. From 74 to 2002, he was the head of Department of Oncology at Nanavati Hospital. From 75 to 94, he was the surgical oncologist serving at Jaslok. And after that, till 2006, surgical oncologist at Leelavati Hospital. After that, he has also been serving as the medical director of the Brahma Kumaris Hospital in Mumbai. I told you he is the president of medical wing of Brahma Kumaris. And another feather to the cap is he's also the medical advisor to the Janki Foundation, of which you have been hearing since the start of the session. So what he'll be speaking to us is about the practical experience of Vihasa in India, because it is through his guidance that all of us in India as facilitators are conducting the program. So over to Dr. Mehta for his talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Manoj Bhai, for your kind words. It's always a pleasure to be with you, though on a virtual screen. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend some time, but it'll be purely with my slides. So I go to my slides first, which is the one. Okay. It's the wrong one. Wrong one. Today my subject is Vyasa in India, and let me tell you that I think there's something happened in this. No, slides have gone upside down.
There is, Dr. Mehta, there is on the left-hand panel down the
Yeah.
slide show view. Yeah,
Okay.
if you just click that, yeah.
No, it's gone upside down. All right. As a matter of fact, I think there is some mix-up in the slide, but this was the launching of the Vyasa, Values in Healthcare, a Spiritual Approach, in Mount Abu in April of 2006. I had the privilege of attending a program on Vyasa in 2005 in Oxford. That's the time we got interested. Till then, I never knew that there's something called facilitation for teaching. This was a eye-opener for me. And this is the first time when we came back in 2005. I started in October of 2005 the program on the modules. And the first group that we took was our own hospital, the doctors, the administrative staff, the managers, nurses, and it was a great success. In other words, what really happened was we came to know each other very intimately. We knew the dormant powers each one had. There are many people who had different talents, singing, dancing, telling stories, making everyone laugh. And this is one of the programs where you can really try and bring harmony in your organization. You can also bring a efficiency. And if you are a commercial organization, you can always increase your profits because people will love to work together and in harmony. So I think it was a great work of Dr. Sarah, Dr. Craig Brown, and Arnold Dressler and their companions at behest of Dadi Janki. So here is it's gone upside down. Okay. I think I wanted to pay my tribute to Dadi Janki. That slide has gone upside down. It looks like something's happened. But Dadi was a symbol of compassion. I can relate to you one of the stories about her. I used to travel between India and USA at least a couple of times a year. And every time I flew over, I was told that I must stay over in London for at least for a couple of days, meet her, and then proceed. Once it happened that I dropped the idea of staying in London, and I overflew. And she came to know later that I was in US and I did not come to London. So she told me the next time you travel, you will stay and a couple of days you spend with us in London. Next time I went, I had planned only 1 day stay. And she asked me, when are you going? I said, Daddy, I'm leaving tomorrow. She said, oh, you should stay for a day longer. I said, whatever you say, I'll do. And she asked me to stay for a day. I changed my ticket. And next day, she told me that look, I must visit 2 patients. One of them had an advanced cancer, was father of one of the BK brothers. And the other one was mother of a guard in retreat center in Oxford, who had been there right from the beginning. And that's what she made me do. Next day, visit both these people. It took us 2 hours to travel, and I spent a couple of hours with them. It was great. You could not believe the reaction of the patients. Both of them said, Dadi is so generous. she has asked you to stay over and come and see us. And I had a lovely time with them listening to their stories. And I think this is what uh, the highest form of compassion is. And this is what our Dadi was known for. And it was her vision when she saw the burnout, physical, mental, emotional, amongst the healthcare professionals in England, while she used to visit the hospitals, that she suggested that we should do something for them. And this is what led to genesis of values in healthcare as spiritual approach. As far as our trainings in India was concerned, we have done innumerable programs, never kept count of them, but of late trainings, we have done about 20 training programs. We have trained probably more than 200 people for facilitation. We have had reunion retreats for trained facilitators in retreat centers in Delhi and Mumbai, and also in Hyderabad. A 3-day advanced training for facilitator was conducted in Delhi in October 2018, aim of further enhancing facilitation skills of the existing facilitators. As a matter of fact, most of us are amateur facilitators. And today, in last 20 years since we started this program, the world has really moved. Facilitation has become almost a specialty. And you have trainers, live trainers for that. We have conducted a couple of hundred workshops with thousands of people taking benefit, because all these programs are given free of cost. And we have been doing a lot of work in hospitals in Mumbai, medical colleges in the city and in Maharashtra, and in different parts of the country now. It's picked up a lot since Manoj Bhai and his group have joined. Brahma Kumaris centers all over India have been contributing immensely in promoting and organizing Vyasa trainings and workshops. All said and done, anything that you want to do, it does cost you, especially to conduct a program like a Vyasa, especially if you are going to do in a place with ambience and all the facilities, it is expensive, both in terms of time and in terms of money. So I think it's been a great feeling that we have been able to do it free of cost for everyone. Um, I don't know. Since lockdown, there have been challenging times for healthcare professionals since COVID outbreak. The other day I was listening, the 7,000 doctors or healthcare professionals have lost their lives. And I think this is the time which is really testing the profession. We initiated and encouraged by Stephen Berkeley, who was a very keen facilitator, and he was a member of the both Indian chapter and international chapter, international facilitators group. He trained several facilitators in India, and now we have been conducting online Vyasa sessions through Zoom application for the healthcare professionals. This is what we are doing just now. Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur, and Madhya Pradesh are some examples where they are doing the virtual programs. These sessions are ongoing till date and are conducted for 2 to 3 hours on Saturdays and Sundays for the healthcare professionals. And normally about 30, 40 people attend each program. Well, this is a group that was done in Nagpur. I think this was done by Pooja and her group. I think that's very good. This was our initial, this is a slide I'm showing. I think Manoj is there. This was in October 2014, which he mentioned about. And this was in a Reliance Energy Management Institute, we used to call REMI. This place had a tremendous ambience for holding this kind of programs, As you can see here, normally group would be between 25 and 30, maybe sometimes a little more. When we had more than 30 people, then we used to break up in 2 groups and then conduct the program. This is an experiential program uh, based on appreciative inquiry. So you have to be very, very gentle, and you have to be very appreciative. Nobody makes, jokes or fun or, for that matter, disturbs anybody. This is a way in which I think those of us who are practicing, they know, but I'm sure there are viewers who do not know how we conduct this program. Normally, the people sit in groups and they work in pairs initially, and sometimes in small groups of 4 or 5. Then there are certain exercises in which there's a creativity. You can have skits, you can have paintings, you can have write stories, create television, ad, and things, anything that one can do. It's more of uh, enjoying together creativity. And that creativity is a right brain activity, which is very important for the left brain guys like healthcare professionals who all the time work through their left brain. So I think the essence of the program on values is how to bring about the real creativity within you and bring a comradeship with the colleagues, bring harmony, bring a lot of confidence, confidentiality, discuss your personal things which you can't normally discuss with others. This is one of those Mount Tabu meetings in 2018, 6th annual training. These are the occasions which we all look forward. Here we have Sister Matilda from Dutch sister, who has been a very keen practitioner of Vyasa. And we have had several programs to popularize. One of them that we held in Shanmukhanand Hall in Mumbai, which has a capacity of 2,700 people, and we had almost 3,000 doctors for this meeting. And this was to introduce mind-body medicine and the values in healthcare. The important part here was that we had Vice Chancellor of Maharashtra University of Health Sciences, who came for inauguration and then sat throughout the day for this conference. And following which, he requested us to hold a conference for Maharashtra University of Health Sciences on values in healthcare, a spiritual approach. Sarah and Arnold were also present in this meeting and presented some nice talk. This was attended by our 150 teaching faculty in medical colleges in Maharashtra. And I think this was a great feeling. This was between 2010 and 15. Dr. Jamkar was a vice chancellor, was very keen to introduce values in healthcare in the undergraduate and postgraduate training. But I think it was, there's always difficulty when you want to introduce anything about values that is considered as a religious base, and somebody wants to promote religion, and therefore that's how it was probably not successful. But Dr. Jamkar was also instrumental in inviting me to a conference of vice chancellors of health universities in Lucknow, where we presented a whole session on Vyasa. Despite all our efforts, I think we have not been able to break into the medical colleges to accept the values in healthcare as a training program for graduate students. Now we have, of course, a postgraduate diploma in values in healthcare at Annamalai universities, and this is a very popular program. To introduce, I think, what happened? I think we're gone into the wrong one. That's why. Okay. My apologies. I think it was a wrong slides which went in, but that's okay. I only want to tell you that this is the slide which I was looking for, and I missed it out. But anyway, and this is the one which I always like to. Yeah, no, uh, when we talk of a compassion, the first person who comes to our mind is Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation. Here he is nursing a leprosy patient who was a Sanskrit scholar who came to have darshan of Mahatma Gandhi in Sevagram in Varda. And he was not permitted to enter the ashram. And when Gandhiji came to know, he came out and took him as an inmate at the ashram, and he used to nurse and massage his feet every day. This was the time, 1939, when leprosy was considered incurable and was supposed to be contagious. And this picture is that from the stamp which was published by Indian Postal Department in 1959. So it's this is the one which I always like to present every time we have anything on values in healthcare. I think this is the ones which we ran through. Um, the way forward, we have 325 medical colleges in Maharashtra, 57 in Mumbai, which includes nursing, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and other homeopathy and Ayurvedic colleges. We have a tremendous challenge in the city if you want to take up. And we have also, we don't have to go anywhere if you want to serve values in healthcare in Mumbai or in Maharashtra. We have to train the trainers on Vyasa facilities. We've been doing batches of maximum 30 people we can do. Okay, what happened? I touched the wrong button. Okay. We have had health professional education. Maharashtra University of Health Sciences always invited us when we had a meeting with the University of Sydney, Collaborative Medical Education Symposium. This is very interesting that we send the message across to different parts of the world about the values in healthcare. Okay. These are some of the opinions which are very interesting, because what has values in healthcare, a spiritual approach brought for the people. This was one of our Brahma Kumaris sisters who works at the Global Hospital in Mount Abu. She wrote very beautifully, I asked her, would you like to say something about the program? And she says, you broke the image of a big surgeon and a director of the hospital. I saw you as a curious adolescent who wants to learn everything and take part in every activity like a child. I think this is what it should be, because this is the innocence of the childhood that we are looking for, because we lost it before we knew it. And I think Baba has always told us, Balak so Malik, and observing the magic of Vyasa at every small and big program, doctors relax and enjoy every small activity. This is what it is, dancing and playing. Forgetting all the stress and tension, it works like psychotherapy for them. They experience release from their past emotional blockages. I think this is a simple, in simple words, she has said so much that the program offers. Well, she's a research scientist and pharma innovator. She's one of there at the moment. She said, my heart has expanded, opened up, and it's overflowing, obviously with compassion and love. It has raised my vibration so profoundly and filled me with so much of joy. Participants expressed their high enthusiasm. joy, and take home a more relaxed, grounded, inspired self. This is what we are looking for. The valuing the self, taking care of yourself. This is one of the purposes of this program. Vyasa is a powerful tool to wake everyone up to the endless source of values we hold within. I think this has been brought very well by Sarah and all of us we've been listening to. Expressing these values in our conscious actions for happy and peaceful life. This is from one of the HR chiefs in an international bank in Delhi. The first Vyasa experience in Mount Abu in 2016, she recalls, as an extraordinary experience which opened her heart and made her realize power of expressing herself with honesty, to be non-judgmental and respect others. She appreciated working with spiritual tools, giving her experience of deep silence. She noticed positive change in her own life and towards people around her. Practically, she likes to live like a facilitator. Her thinking process from being critical changed to be appreciative of self and others. She felt that this was a very effective platform for experiencing values and promoting values in life more efficiently. One of the other management consultants from Pune, she writes, experiences of Vyasa helped me at personal and professional level tremendously. It worked deep down on my inner level, self-discovery of what is important to me and what are my values. Values come out of me, reflected in every role, routine, relationship, responsibility. And its pivot coming from my values is visible. Anchored me to who am I, where am I going, what am I doing, why I'm doing. Purpose and meaning to my personal and professional life. It gives purpose and meaning to my professional life. I live value-based, meaningful life. How to live practically a spiritual life and learned the facilitation skills. I think she's one of the expert facilitators. And now with lockdown, challenging times for healthcare professionals since COVID outbreak, it initiated and encouraged by Stephen that we have trained several facilitators in India for conducting these on Zoom. And this is being done in several places. I think we have said this. This is one which we have gone through. I think these are, well, the important thing here is you can have breakup rooms and you can do exercises in small groups. Here is a group which shows the values and how beautifully they're done, accepting and humble. And, I think each one has written a beautiful value about. But you can do this kind of an exercises even in virtual field. These are value statements expressing with art and a few sharings and carings. This looks very beautiful. I think this is what is creativity all about, going back to childhood as a group, I think. Well, this shows again the games that we play, we paint, right? This is something very beautiful. These are something closing ceremonies that we do. They're very touching. And everyone, when he departs after a whole day together, it gives that, takes back with you the happy memories of spending a whole day with such a beautiful group. This was in our trainers' meetings last November in Mumbai. This is the one which you've seen already. One small change can have an enormous impact. I didn't realize I've exceeded the time. And I think it's important to have guidance enhancing qualities of calmness and compassion, which is lost under the weight of shortness of time, need to earn money, and desire of status. I think this is what is a content-based skills development. We spend a whole life, and it's important that we develop the skills of values, developing values from inside out. And it's not instead, but along with. These programs have about 1,000 facilitators trained in 50 different countries and translated in 12 languages. And currently, Professor Hardeep Singh from Ludhiana, who's a professor of Hindi at the University of Punjab, is translating the book. He has almost completed 7 modules, probably another few months, and we'll have values in healthcare in Hindi. And that would be of a great help for Brahma Kumaris sisters to take it to grassroots level across the country. It's a long journey between human being and being human, said Mahatma Ji. And I think it's very important we put heart in healing. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Dr. Mehta, for the elaborate presentation, and I'm sure it was inspiring for all of us. It was a nice memory, a journey around the memory lane. And very importantly, as you rightly mentioned, that as doctors, we are very left cerebral, we are not right cerebral. The more we develop our right cerebral nature, we tend to get de-stressed, that ignite that child within and be the flexible as you are, as I told before as well. So thank you so much indeed. And I move on to the last speaker. And basically for the closing comments, he's the last but not the least at all. Let me invite him, Dr. Pratap Mehra. He is an epitome of humility, care, and compassion. When I asked him that please send me your biodata, he sent me a brief one. But at the end, I was really amazed by his humility. And he had mentioned over there that he's just a sevadhari, just a server at the hospital. That was really amazing. And I really have sweet experiences when I visit the global hospital for his really kind and compassionate care, for his sweet smiles, and for his very gentle way of dealing with all the things and everything in the hospital. And he has also really promoted Vihasa in a big way in the hospitals, as Dr. Mehta alluded to. Before, we have many other facilitators there, and Sister Matilde, whom we call her very compassionately as mother for all of us. She and the entire team at Global Hospital have really been doing a lot of these sessions even before I was involved. So all thanks to the entire Global Hospital team. And I would just briefly speak about him. His journey with Brahma Kumaris began in 1970 on his first visit to Mount Abu as a medical student. And after his graduation, he followed a short training program in ophthalmology and then joined community service at rural hospital close to Chandigarh. Then he moved on to emergency medicine at Chandigarh, and after that moved to hospital management in 1983 at the age of 33. And after serving, he took voluntary retirement in 1996. And his last responsibility there was Deputy Director of Health Education in the Lokik world. And as I mentioned, he's written that since then, he has been working as a dedicated Sevadhari at Global Hospital, and he is officially the medical director of the hospital there, the J. Watumal Hospital and Research Center, and of the other hospitals which we have also in Abu Road, Vadodara, that is Baroda in Gujarat, and Jalore in Rajasthan. So I would really request him. He's been patiently waiting. All of us are also patient. And before I request him, I don't know whether Dr. Sarah Egger wants to leave because she has another session. So I'm sorry if we have overshot on the time. So you can feel free to leave, and Sister Denise would be conducting the meditation. So I would request Dr. Mehra to speak something about values and also to give us the vote of thanks for all the speakers. Over to Dr. Mehra, Pratap Mehra.
Om Shanti, and very good evening. Thank you, Manoj Bhai. It has been a feast of listening to the experts, particularly Sister Denise and Sister Saira. I've known them for several years. They have worked hard. You know, the Vihasa program must have taken many sessions, many years, and they were sharing with me. But the emphasis today has been what Sister Asha said and Dr. Mehta said. You know, I also connected with Mahatma Gandhi. The first story which I learned about his honesty, spelling the word kettle wrongly and then honestly sticking to it. And then the three monkeys epitome of Mahatma Gandhi. So values are what we do with our lives. How do we live our lives? What do we really value? What Sister Denise was sharing, what really we value in life. Some people value money, some people value position, but what is value? Value is what gives us fulfillment, what gives us purpose in life, what we strive for, the way you live and work, and what does determine your priorities. Dr. Mehta was saying about the COVID-19. Just now, one of my friends, while I was sitting here, shared an article which has appeared in the New England Journal of Medicine. What is really happening? COVID has opened up a full spectrum that doctors also need help, supporting doctors and clinicians during COVID-19. And the emotional health of clinician, what really we need today is, I think, emotional stability, the personal resilience. And Vyasa can really fill those lacunas. They can fill those vacuums which are in the medical profession. We know the expectations are so much, and somehow or the other, when we talk of self-care, clinicians have been told to caring about self is, maybe it is selfish, but I personally feel we need to really mend ourselves. We really need to look after ourselves. What they call heal thyself, the physician. This COVID epidemic, this article says, has really opened up a new chapter, that doctors also need emotional support. They also need to be looked after. The caregivers, they need to be cared for. So the Brahma Kumaris have been working on this particular thing. What is emotional stability? What is self-mastery? How do we really manage our own self? We had a program which was known as self-managing leadership. And one of our brothers, senior brothers, had written an article that if you have a good state of mind, if you have your stage is good, your values are good, then you can manage people also. When someone asked me, how do you manage? I said, you first need to understand that this is an interaction between two human beings. When Saira was talking about compassion, she was talking about understanding, she was talking about empathy, she was talking about caring. We need to respect each other. We need to really value each other. When we start valuing each other, then probably the change would come. The values like compassion, values like empathy, and it's like, we need to feel some kind of energy in ourselves when we share our resources with others, like helping others, supporting others, caring for others. These are the values which are inherent to the medical profession. But we know that these values are important not only for the others, but it is also helping for our own self also. These values such as honesty, such as truth and peace, they really boost up your immune system also, your Department of Defense also, because we face so much these days, we are exposed to so much. But probably living a simple life, living a life which is based on values, living a life which is, with the goal is to support others, to care about others, the helping others. We are very fortunate that we are in the healthcare profession, but I do understand our responsibility also becomes greater. But at the same time, we need to learn, we need to look after our own self also. And values, they support us, they nourish us, and the virtues or values or qualities, whatever spectrum of these things are, they mean same to same people. Mahatma Gandhi said that you need to really practice them. Practice, is something when you speak something, your life should speak. You should walk your talk. That is what is needed today. And this program, Vihasa, what Dr. Mehta was sharing so much about the experience, it's an experiential program. You bring out your own values, you nurture your own values. I feel this has been a great accomplishment today evening. You all have been very patient. So my gratitude, my thanks to all of you, particularly to our faculty, Sister Asha started, then Sister Dennis, then Sister Saira, Dr. Mehta, Sister Shreya. All of them have touched so much on values. I feel this should be a kind of inspiration to many of our friends and well-wishers who have been listening to the program. I wish them good luck. I wish them good health. And please experiment with these values and they would become your own strength, your own powers, and power would drive us. Power would really make us to do what we really need to do. Thank you very much. I'm grateful to each one of you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mehra, for your kind words and for summing up everyone's talk. So before I put it on to Sister Denise and asking her to do the closing meditation, as I would just request all of you all that we don't want to do just world values one day in a year. So something which we are planning, I would just want to announce that every fortnightly starting from Diwali in November, we'll be circulating it soon. We'll be having in-depth churning of one particular value. One senior Rajayogi sister would be going in detail. It will be all in English and it will be on churnings of all Baba's Avyakt Vani. So it will really help us, as Dr. Medha pointed out in the end, that that value probably I'm missing inside, which I have to develop, and no other material which is perfect than Baba's Murlis to help us in inculcating that value deep within. So we'll be starting it next month. And now over to Sister Denise for the closing meditation. Thank you all of you all.
Om Shanti. Allowing the beautiful words and feelings of all the speakers and the good feelings of all participants to just sink into our consciousness, into the atmosphere. Be aware of the deepest and most valuable part of yourself, the soul, the heart, the compassionate heart, the loving person of understanding, the wise being who has great value for God and great value for humanity. And this beautiful world of ours. So many people are depleted. So many people are suffering. So many have been damaged. And the compassionate heart reaches out to each one. To feel for them in their suffering. And to do powerful acts which raise the level of consciousness of everyone. Whatever one does, others will see and follow. Let me be the example, the one with depth of feeling and a loving heart. And let us carry these important and beautiful themes forwards as we honor this day, the day of values, the day of students, the day of sacrifice. And in remembrance of the Supreme Being, let us all move forward. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Sister Denise, for this enlightening experience. And I would just like to thank all of you all from the depth of my heart for making this happen, see the light of the day, this program, which basically we thought it came as a thought on the 1st of October, and within 1 week there were approvals from all of your side, and the next week we could just manage. So thanks all of you. Thanks the participants as well who have really helped us and remained till 8 p.m. And lastly, before I forget, there are many people in the background, Brother Nikhil, Brother Praful, and many others who are not on the spotlight, but they are in the background helping us with all the technicalities. Thanks all of you. So with this, we end the